Hello, and thank you for joining the November Buffalo Pride virtual meeting. I am your Pride President, Erin Natalino. We are excited to have Lori Smith speak for this meeting. She will be sharing information on the latest trends and habits of today's teens on social media. Remember, this topic is intended for parents only. Later in the meeting, we will also share information on some upcoming events, ways to help contribute to the Buffalo Scholarship Foundation while doing your holiday shopping or any time during the year, as well as updates from the principals. So let's kick it off with our presentation from Lori Smith.
Hi, and welcome to the Parents Playbook. My name is Lori Smith. I'm an Orlando-based attorney, and it's been my privilege for the past several years to speak to your organization about the pitfalls of teen social media usage. Thank you so much for having me back this year. Let's get started. So I think a great analogy is to think about when we were teens, when we were growing up, the mall was where we went to socialize. And today's teens socialize using social media to a large extent like we did the mall. And I think that's a great analogy because just like our parents would set some parameters for us when we went to the mall as preteens and teens, and we probably would today for our own kids, we have to set some of those parameters for our teens when they're on social media, and we shouldn't be afraid to. So, if you're sending your 12-year-old daughter to the mall with a friend, you might set some guidelines. It wouldn't be just a free-for-all. You might say you have to stay together, don't talk to strangers, check in with me at 2 p.m., don't leave the mall property. It might be different parameters that you would set, say for a 17-year-old that you're dropping off at the mall. Social media works the same way. You want to set some guidelines about what they can and can't do on social media, and you want to, whatever platform they're on, you want to set some parameters so that they don't leave the mall. Okay, and as we remember, our social life revolved around that thing that you put to your ear that had the really long cord. Their social life revolves around a much more powerful device. Most teens today, over 95% by the time they reach age 15, have a smartphone, a phone that has 24/7 connectivity. It is essentially a personal computer in their hand. And that really changes the landscape. So we'll keep those things in mind as we talk about the most common mistakes that I see in my practice of working with schools that cause teens to lose opportunities, to have opportunities taken off the table. Also hope to share with you today some of the trends that we see with teenagers today, these digital natives, so to speak, these kids that have never grown up without 24/7 news cycles, without internet access, and access to a huge amount of resources and platforms where they can leave a large amount of content about themselves. Okay, so what is the most popular social media platform right now? Once again this year, TikTok seems to maintain its hold in the #1 spot. Definitely the #1 app of 2020 through 2021. #1 app downloaded in 2020. You can see there that 69% of users are 13 to 24. So this is where the youth market is. That is that market that a lot of advertisers are after, but it's also a very vulnerable market where predators know if they're looking for a young person that they can dupe or manipulate, they're on TikTok. Some new statistics just came out showing that Snapchat is sort of regaining some of its ground, and as well as Instagram. So those three are the top 3 most popular. I actually saw one report that said that while they spend more time watching videos and content on TikTok, they actually use Instagram more often to communicate. And I think that's probably pretty accurate for the types of communities that we see in Central Florida. Okay, so let's talk about the biggest mistakes that teens and tweens make on social media. #1, hands down, is participating in online challenges. And these days, most of those, some years, it results in things that are dangerous where they can actually result in harm to the teen. But this year, it involves posting about illegal activities, which is always near the top of my list. So many of you may have heard about the devious licks trend that was happening during the first few weeks of school. What that was, that originated on TikTok, where most of these online challenges do these days. And it involved a student in the first few weeks of school in another state who stole a box of face masks, and they posted on TikTok about it, a little video they created, and said, "I just hit the most devious lick." That's a term they use to refer to stealing the box of face masks. And this really went viral and took off. So teens started trying to create videos showing their own devious licks or things that they had stolen from their school, and then that, migrated into just causing damage in their schools. As you can see in this video, TikTok did put a stop to this and took all the videos down and started prohibiting them from being able to be posted. But there are lots of compilations of these videos that are available on YouTube still existing. So you can see some of the examples here. There were many teens in the state of Florida who got caught up in this. Multiple teens were arrested across several counties. What many teens did not realize is in the state of Florida, the threshold from going to a misdemeanor theft to a felony theft, grand theft, is pretty low. It's only $750. So some of the items that they were stealing, as you can see in this video, where they are stealing something like a security camera or a microscope, those are high dollar items, which definitely could result in a felony charge. You can see there were 9 students arrested in Marion County, several in the Tampa Bay area, several in Polk County, and this was Sheriff Grady Judd, who, as we know, Sheriff Judd is pretty tough talking, no nonsense local sheriff in Florida. He called it organized criminal acts by teenagers, and he really took a very tough stance on the teenagers who engaged in this. The ones who vandalized their school, we saw toilets getting destroyed, sinks being pulled off walls. This was really hard, I think, for adults to understand. Like, why would you damage something at your school just to participate in a TikTok trend? This really defies all logic, but it's also consistent with how teenagers have been behaving for, the last 50 years, trying to look cool. This time, they just have a way of creating video evidence of their crime and then sharing it to a very large audience. Now, the troubling thing about this is that there is a list circulating on TikTok of different challenges for each month in the school year, and some of these are very severe. So I took that list and made my own list to show just how serious some of these charges can be. So you see September, that was the Devious Licks Challenge, grand theft, malicious destruction of property. October was very concerning to educators because on the list for October was to slap or smack a teacher. And some of the lists said smack or slap a teacher on the rear. So it would either be battery or sexual harassment. We have had the first arrest already. It was actually in the state of Louisiana. A young lady slapped and really viciously beat her teacher, who was in her 60s, which makes it elder abuse in the state of Florida, which again is a felony. Interestingly, they also arrested all 6 students who were recording it with their phones in the classroom while the attack was happening, and they charged them under a statute for creating a video to incite violence in the state of Louisiana. November would be a sexual harassment. December was very concerning. It was encouraging students to, boys to expose themselves at school, which in the state of Florida would be a lewd and lascivious. If it was a lewd and lascivious that occurred in front of someone under 16, again, it reaches felony status. So very concerning. As it goes on, some months would just result in discipline. April's an actual retail theft from a store. So all of these things could potentially result in a student having a criminal record just for trying to participate in a TikTok challenge. Great discussion to have with your teen about the danger of this and how this is really taken seriously and not something to take lightly. Okay, number 2 is always making threats of any kind, because continues to be an issue in the state of Florida on pretty much a weekly basis. A middle or high school in the state of Florida is on lockdown or has an increased police presence because of a threat that's posted online or sometimes in a text thread or text chain with a group of students. You can see the statute there, Florida Statute 836.10. That's the written threats to kill or do bodily injury statute. That is the statute teens are charged under, and again, this is a felony, the more serious type of criminal charge like we were discussing. Pretty much a zero tolerance policy from law enforcement at this point on these types of threats. So what constitutes a threat these days? It really doesn't take a whole lot, frankly. This was an example of a threat posted by a young man in the Pinellas County area over near Tampa. So he says, I can't be the only one who wants to shoot at my school. Not going to do it, just a thought. That's really all it takes. It doesn't require that a student engage in taking any steps toward actually carrying it out, or to even have access to any guns. Merely talking about it online or saying, I might shoot at the school or I'm thinking about it, is enough to trigger arrest under this statute. And importantly, an arrest under this statute is a 21-day hold at a juvenile facility before they see a judge and receive any type of disposition from that charge, either a lessening of that charge or a penalty set or anything. So, and as I share with teens, if you miss 21 days of school, that's 21 days of zeros. That really means repeating that grade. And it also typically means a change in your educational environment. When you make threats online, you're typically not welcomed back into your prior school community. So it usually means starting over that school year and doing it in some type of virtual online environment. Threats on gaming platforms have also been big this year. Discord is hands down the most common place that those are made. If you're not familiar with Discord, it's a server-based platform really marketed to gamers where they can communicate with other gamers, set up private servers, discuss gaming, stream gaming content, that sorts of thing. And many times teens will be interacting on Discord in their gamer persona, if you will, using their gamer tag. And so I think sometimes it's a little step away from reality, and maybe they feel a freedom to say more upsetting, disturbing things dealing with guns or violence. So I want to share this with you very briefly. This was again Sheriff Grady Judd in Polk County, where they arrested a 17-year-old named Nathaniel Burkett for statements he made on Discord. Now when he made the statements, he was actually not in the state of Florida, but as law enforcement officers in several states reached out to Discord and started investigating this and tracking down IP addresses, they realized that he was actually visiting family members in Polk County. And so that's where the arrest actually happened. Sheriff Judd went on Facebook Live and gave a 20-minute press conference where he read from the transcript of what was said on Discord and shared Mr. Burkett's mugshot, which he's able to do under Florida statute where a juvenile is charged with a felony. So let's take a look.
I want to strangle so many people to death right now. Nobody understands me, but they will understand how dead they will be in a minute. I'm going to kill so many people. At this point, I've given up. There's nothing left for me but anger, depression, and suicide. I feel like if I ever took over the world, every person that treated me like crap, I would take them and make them suffer and make them have a slow death, and I would enjoy every single minute of it. Right now, I got nothing that makes me happier right now but death, or to make those people suffer. That's all I got right now. That's what Nathaniel Burkett was putting on a gaming site. Fortunately for us, the game moderator and other gamers who tried to talk to him on this gaming site called Crime Stoppers and/or the moderator actually called the Raleigh police in North Carolina and said, hey, we see some really freaky stuff. There's a lot more than I just read to you. That was a few of the highlights. So from the Raleigh police, they received information through their tip that maybe this was Winter Haven, Florida. It went to the Winter Haven Police Department, who turned it over to us. We had very limited information and a false name. We worked with 6 different social media networks and our gaming sites. This guy here was not an active shooter. But this guy here was checking all the blocks in an effort to move toward being an active shooter. But ladies and gentlemen, why do I ask you to come here today? Why do we do this on Facebook Live? This is the new normal. This is the new world, and words matter. When people threaten and write and say they're going to shoot and kill, we must take them at face value. Now, we hope that we can get this young man's life straightened out. But you know what? Today he can't do a mass murder because he's locked up.
One of the takeaways from that, I think, is that law enforcement seemed to acknowledge that Mr. Burkett may have been in crisis or suffering from a mental illness. That does not excuse behavior which violates that statute. Okay. Number 3 is cyberbullying. I always like to show the definition of cyberbullying directly from the Florida statutes because it's pretty broad. It includes things like teasing, social exclusion, which is communicating to a group and saying, no one talk to her, no one sit with her tomorrow. Religious, sexual, racial harassment definitely can fall under cyberbullying. And then the big one, public humiliation. The public humiliation is the most common one that I see at the middle and high school level, and that typically involves creating a photo or video that is embarrassing to the victim and then distributing that throughout a school community simply to cause embarrassment and humiliation. So that is a school issue and will typically result in some type of penalty at school, suspension or expulsion. Where cyberbullying is really serious, reaches a very large audience, and basically is really, really mean, it can be bumped up to cyber stalking, and that's kind of the pattern that we see. If it's your run-of-the-mill cyberbullying, it's going to be treated at school as a disciplinary matter. But if it has some additional factors, the victim is particularly vulnerable, or the cyberbullying is particularly vicious, or there was any physical harm to the victim, then you'll see law enforcement get involved and charge it under our cyber stalking statute. Sometimes people think of cyber stalking and they think that it must happen like repeatedly day after day, but that's not actually the requirement. If you look at the text of the statute, it has to cause substantial emotional distress and serve no legitimate person. So even one act of cyberbullying, if it causes substantial emotional distress and serves no legitimate person, that can be the basis for a cyber stalking charge. It's a first-degree misdemeanor unless there is physical harm done to the victim, and then it can be bumped up to a lower-level felony. So one of the common types of cyberbullying that we've seen kind of have a resurgence this year are these shade room, tea, or gossip accounts. So this really peaked back in 2014-15 with release of the Burn Book app. So if you've ever heard of a burn book, burn books were physical books that were kind of created, you know, back in the day before we had social media, where you would write mean things in the book about people and then pass it around. They're also called slam books. And if you saw the movie Mean Girls, there was a burn book featured very prominently in Mean Girls where mean things were written about classmates, and it was shared around school. So in 2014, you know, some inventive app maker released a digital burn book. So it only lasted about a year until Apple removed it from the App Store because it was linked to so many cyberbullying cases. So the new iteration of that are Instagram accounts that teens are creating as shade rooms where you can come and cast some shade on someone or spill the tea, so to speak. So tea rooms where they come in and share gossip, say mean things. It's really just another platform for bullying in an anonymous way. Law enforcement has called these cyberbullying on steroids. So they really are very dangerous, especially for the teens who host or create the account. And whoever the host is, that information will be readily available because they agree to release their personal information under the Instagram terms of service when they create those accounts. Now, I did do a quick check to see if I could find any Villages high school tea rooms or Buffalo VHS tea rooms. Because VHS is a popular acronym, there are many VHS tea rooms, but most of the ones I found did not seem to be related to Villages High School. I did find one account for Villages Middle School where someone was trying to create a tea account. It looks very new, there aren't many followers yet, and there were no posts yet. So that'll be something to keep an eye on and talk to your kids about. Okay, next up is sexting. You can see the definition of sexting under the Florida statute there. And basically, Florida has created a sexting statute which gives teenagers a break, kind of a slap on the wrist, a non-criminal violation on a first offense where a nude image or a video depicting nudity is shared between two minors. And that's key. It has to be minor to minor. It also has to be a first offense. You have to not share it. If you receive it, you have to not show it or forward it on to anyone else, and you have to report it. If you do all of those things, then you haven't violated the statute. So there's good news and bad news about sexting. A really interesting study was done in 2019, and I thought it was great because FAU in South Florida participated in this study. And what they found from talking to teens is that the good news was that sexting was not really the epidemic that it was maybe 7 or 8 years ago, or at least how schools and parents really thought it seemed like an epidemic. Only 13% of students in 2019 said they had sent or received an illicit photo, and of those, 33% said, I only did it once. That's pretty consistent with what I would say I see, at least within the community of schools that I work with. The bad news was, however, that the percent of teenagers, 12 to 17, sexting has not really changed over time. So, with all of the educational efforts that schools have done, guidance counselors have done, that it really had not changed teen behavior that much. Interestingly, they also found that teens were most likely to comply, almost 64% will comply, where it's a boyfriend or girlfriend that has asked them to send the nude image. I would say that's, again, very consistent with what I see. Also found that boys were significantly more likely to send and receive nude photos, also consistent, and that 15-year-olds were most likely to forward those photos on and to share them within a school community. I would say that the schools I work with, sexting is typically a 14 and 15-year-old problem. I rarely see older high school students, juniors and seniors, get caught up in that. The girls in particular have already figured out that it doesn't work out really well for them. The reputational damage that results from sexting is so significant that it doesn't take the girls long to figure out, yeah, there's no benefit for me for participating in this. This is only going to hurt me. So that is really the time period that's really important to talk to your kids about it. I would say between like 7th and 9th grade. For your older students, it's really important that you talk to them about what falls outside the sexting statute. And that is, as your seniors approach turning 18, once they reach that magic age of 18, they are no longer a minor, they are an adult. And so the sexting statute no longer applies to them. The most famous case where this was demonstrated dealt with Mr. Philip Alpert. You can see his mugshot there. He was 18. It was right here in the Central Florida area. He had a 16-year-old girlfriend who had voluntarily provided a nude image to him during a relationship. And then, as things go, there was a breakup. He was upset, and he forwarded that nude image of her on to a large number of people. He was charged with transmission of child pornography because he's an adult and she's a minor. So that nude image of her was and is, by definition of Florida law, a piece of child pornography, and he's in possession of that because he was an adult. So they did not get the benefit, he did not get the benefit of any sexting statute. what it's critical for the older teens to understand is that that results in sex offender registry. And that's a pretty serious thing. That's a 40-year listing on the sex offender registry in Florida. And that has some pretty serious implications. That means that many jobs will be unavailable to them. Becoming a teacher, a police officer, sitting for the bar exam in Florida, or obtaining a medical license, all becomes very unlikely when you are a registered sex offender. Living in any type of communal living situation, like a college dorm. You can't live on a college campus if you're a registered sex offender. So that's a decision that's life-altering. So it's really important that our teens understand that. And as you have a teenager approaching 18, that's a great time to sit them down and say, hey, you're about to be an adult, and that carries some really serious side effects. Let's talk about what those are. Number 6 is posting racially charged or racially insensitive either language or videos or photos. This continues to be a problem. I see teens get in trouble for this on pretty much a weekly basis. Here's a couple really good examples of the types of things that teens will post. You can see the top, this is, pumpkin carving, and we've got a swastika and KKK. And then of course posting the N-word has some very serious implications. When I speak to teens about this, I try to remind them that there are a few things that you're never going to make funny. One is the Holocaust. A swastika is never going to be funny to the world at large. Might be funny to your friends, not going to be well received when it's shared online. The Ku Klux Klan, racial violence, not going to be funny. The other one is slavery. You just cannot make it funny. Yet despite this, teens continue to make this same mistake. This was only a couple of weeks ago in Kansas. A young man is asking his date to homecoming, and as is very popular these days, to create a sign to hold up to invite to either homecoming or a prom. He creates a sign that says, if I was black, I would be picking cotton, but I'm white, so I'm picking you for homecoming. And as soon as it was posted, it makes its way to Twitter. You can see there someone has shared it to Twitter. And so at that point, it really goes viral. Now, this young man was not original, because this same sign has been created hundreds of times. Of course, the first time it was ever created was right here in Florida, and that was by Noah Crowley, the young man in the middle of that, bottom middle of that graphic. He created that sign as a promposal in Sarasota, Florida. And teens over and over continue to use the same phrase for these types of signs. You have to question whether someone taking the photo, a parent, someone doesn't intervene and say, this is not a good idea. This will not be well received. This is not funny. You can't take something like slavery and make a joke out of it. At the college level, the stakes are definitely higher. There's just really not a college on the planet that hasn't dismissed a student for some type of racist behavior posted online, posting racially inappropriate videos or online. And typically at the college level, because they're dealing with adults, that will result in either an expulsion from the school or so much pressure to withdraw that the student ends up withdrawing and returning home. Damaging college admissions potential is definitely one of the more serious mistakes that teens can make online. Very famously in 2017, Harvard very publicly revoked the admission of 10 incoming freshmen based solely on memes, really graphic, insensitive, racist, sexist memes that they posted in a group me, which seniors, once the college admissions decisions come out, the admitted students groups will start forming group me's or Facebook groups where they can communicate with one another, and that's where the memes were posted. It was almost like after Harvard did it, that really opened the floodgates for other schools to say, oh, well, Harvard's done it. So if, one of the finest institutions in our country is going to admit that, yeah, they'll use a student's social media to revoke an admission, that really opens the door for us to do it. In the spring of 2020, it was unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it in all the years of monitoring these types of college decisions. So I can't think of a school off the top of my head that hasn't either expelled a student or revoked a freshman admission on the basis of something that was racially inappropriate that was posted online. Very famously, last September, big news in the world of college admissions was that the Common App removed the question about school discipline. So I've talked about that for years, warning students that when they went to fill out those college applications on the Common App, it was going to ask, have you ever been the subject of a disciplinary action that resulted in suspension or expulsion from 9th grade on? So Common App came out and said, we're removing that question because we acknowledge that discipline is handed out unevenly in some parts of the country. So we're going to just take that question off the application. So that was big news. The result of that was all of the colleges just put that question on their own application and even sort of raised the stakes and asked a lot more detailed questions. So I've given you 2 examples here. I have a senior this year, so we're going through this college admissions process. And so far, I haven't come across a college that doesn't ask these in the very last part of their specific college application, that their supplement to the Common App. So you can see University of Florida wants to know, are you currently or have you been charged with or the subject of a disciplinary action for either academic or disciplinary misconduct at any educational institution? So they're not even limiting it necessarily to 9th grade on. Could that include an action in middle school? Presumably. And then of course they say, if you're not sure if this applies to you, just say yes and then explain it to us. You know, that is not where you want to say, yes, I received a 2-day suspension because I ripped a soap dispenser off the wall as part of the TikTok challenge. You don't want to have to explain that. So teens really need to be aware this can come back to haunt them. Vanderbilt asks a number of questions. They even want to know, have you been the subject of a restraining order or protective order? So those are not uncommon these days in bullying situations where families will seek a protective or restraining order against the bully to protect the victim. And so that would be something that you would have to disclose. I've seen that on several college applications. Number 10 is definitely not thinking long-term, not thinking about how coaches and teachers and other adults are watching what you do online and how that creates that reputational damage that is so important down the road. Teenagers should be building a brand that they are proud of, and they should start when they're young. And that brand should be something that they can sell to colleges, to internship programs, scholarship organizations, college recruiting coaches if they're an athlete. That really should be something they're proud of. If you have a student who is an athlete, there's no one that this information is more important for, because we're talking real dollars. We're talking opportunities to play at the college level, now to own your name and likeness and to make money off of that as a college athlete. And of course, the money that often comes with some athletic scholarships. So let's hear from one coach. This is the head football coach at Northwestern University, what he has to say to young aspiring college athletes.
That quite frankly, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we didn't know about them, and now we do. And it's a topic of conversation, and to think that we're not going to find it out is just, it's naive. Well, we outsource our monitoring of our social media, and they can find it. And I'm not going to say the team in the league that I did my research with, but they have a social media coordinator. He's Ivy League trained, IT, that has a position coach, basically, monitoring all the top draft picks across the board by their social media history and trends. All things are equal. One area where you're not equal is your social media behavior. And why? Because you're naive enough to tell them that that's what you're doing. And just because you think I didn't friend you and I blocked you or whatever it may be, we can find your friends. And through your friends, we can find out what you do and who you associate yourself with. And unfortunately, at least at Northwestern, and I don't want to speak for any other college coaches, if I go one step further than normal, I have to ask the position coach or the recruiting coach, why are we recruiting him? I don't quite understand how he fits what we're looking for when there's a red flag here. So you're going to go investigate it, and I want to know what the deal is. And until you can give me that answer, we're not going to progress. And that eliminates a lot of issues on the front. I'd rather have a one-day problem than a 4-year problem.
So we've talked about the most common mistakes that teens and adolescents can make online. Told you all the terrible things that can result, all the loss of opportunities. So what can you do as a parent? So use news stories, use examples, talk to them about that. Watch documentaries with your teen. There are 2 great ones that came out in the last couple years. The Social Dilemma on Netflix, I believe it's still available. It's been called The Film Turning Teens Off of Social Media. I know I watched it with my older teen, probably less interesting to younger teens, but I watched it with my, at the time, 17-year-old, and she actually did end up making some changes in how she allowed notifications on social media to sort of interrupt her day. And then Social Animals, also on Netflix. It's been called the one documentary every parent with teens should watch. I really think you should watch that one with your teen. It's really great. I'm also going to show you a video in a few minutes that would be great for you to watch with your teen. What you want to avoid is that if you cannot speak the language, if you're not on social media and you're not at least have a basic understanding of how it works, then it's really hard to talk to them, because if you're not speaking the language, they're going to stop listening to you. I have to share this TikTok of Senator Blumenthal, who really drives home this point. This is a Senate committee hearing where they're having someone from Facebook testify about some of the research that has come out from the Facebook whistleblower about what did they know about how dangerous Instagram was for teens. And so he's asking her about Finsta. Now, Finsta is a slang term used to describe a second Instagram account that a teen may have, where they have a fewer number of followers. It's kind of like friends only, where they would post photos that maybe aren't necessarily curated or good enough for their main Instagram page. In this area, it's really more commonly called a spam account. So teens will typically have their main Instagram account, and then they'll have a spam account, and they typically don't want their parent to follow that spam account. They might use more profanity on the spam account, or again, just speak more freely, things that they would not want to be as public. So you can listen to Mr. Blumenthal, who clearly does not understand what a Finsta is.
Will you commit to ending Finsta?
Senator, again, let me explain. We don't actually do Finsta. What Finsta refers to is young people setting up accounts where they may want to have more privacy. You refer to it as privacy from their parents. What in my interaction with teens, what I found is that they sometimes like to have an account where they can interact just with a smaller group of friends.
Well, Finsta is one of your.
Finsta
is one of your products or services. We're not talking here about Google or Apple. It's Facebook, correct?
Finsta is slang for a type of account.
Okay, will you end that type of account?
I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're asking.
So I kind of feel like some congressional intern probably got chewed out after that hearing for not accurately describing what Finsta is. Okay, you can also encourage you to set some family rules for your family, and you have to start early. It's really hard to walk into your 17-year-old and say, hey, I'm going to need you to log off of TikTok and Snapchat. We're not going to have that anymore. So you really have to start when they're young. When they first get a phone, that's when you start setting the guidelines. When they first get a social media account, that's when you set some guidelines. You have to provide me, oh, you would like to have Instagram? Okay, I'm going to let you have an Instagram account as long as you show that you're responsible. But there's a couple ground rules. You have to provide me with your password and your login information at all times, and you can't change that without my knowledge. You want to create a limited right of privacy, but you don't want to just hand them that phone and say, have fun. Okay, you should limit all social media to those 13 and up. Legally, under the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, CHIPA, they have to be 13 to have any of these social media accounts. But the social media platforms do, by and large, a really poor job of policing that and making sure, because you can just use a fake birthday and create an account. So that's really something that we as parents have to stay on top of. If your children have Apple devices, and if you have Apple devices, you have a ton of parental controls right at your fingertips, already built into your devices. You can turn on, one of the most important things you can do is to set up your family as a family within your devices, so that you have an organizer, and then you can put in everyone's birth date. It looks at who the minors are, it looks at who the adults are, and then you can also share music. Say if you have an Apple Music account, that means not everybody has to buy the same music, you can share music. But then you can also turn on Ask to Buy, and that means for any minors in your family that you've created, before they can download any app to their phone or iPad or laptop, even a free one, they have to have your permission. So it will literally send you a pop-up text message that says, in my case, Max, my son, would like to download Snapchat, and I can hit either yes or no. That's how I know that he's trying to download it. You can also set time controls and limit the amount of time that they spend on devices. This is great for your younger kids, particularly if you want to make sure they're not on their devices all night long. You can set a bedtime. The device will literally count down and shut off. It will say, you know, you have 15 minutes left before device shutdown. They can request more time. Let's say they're working on a homework project on their laptop, and then it would send that request to you as a parent to approve it in 15-minute increments. So it's really powerful. If you have Microsoft devices, you have those same powers, and importantly, you can also control the Xbox. You have the control of the Xbox. You can limit what games are played. On a Microsoft-based laptop, you can control what websites your student goes to. Again, you can set the times that it can be used. You can either set it as so many hours per day or what time at night it shuts off. You can do it day by day. You will be drunk with power. You can have so much control over using those devices. I also recommend that you get in the habit, again, starting when they're young, of asking them to update their login and password information on like a quarterly basis. So just create a list at breakfast, slap it down. Okay, everybody update your passwords. Will you get eye rolls? Yes. Will you get, oh, this is so unfair? Yes. We have no privacy? Yes. That's when you remind them, oh, well, if you don't want to fill this out, you don't have to. You can just not have a device. So unless they are 18, they are not legally allowed to sign a contract, to have a cell phone contract. The company will not accept that. So they don't have the power to contract. So when you give them a cell phone, that is your cell phone that you own. Legally, you own it. And I would always set it up that way, that I'm giving you a phone, it's my phone that I'm giving to you to use. So I promise these are not easy conversations to have, and it's not, it's hard work. It's just like every other type of parenting, but I promise you, if the alternative is not having the device, they will go along with it. Okay. I also recommend that you look at their phone periodically and you do it without feeling guilty. Again, remember, it's your phone. But if your child is in crisis, or your child is struggling with their mental health, it is quite possible that you can tell that by looking at their device, by looking at their interaction on platforms, by looking at the text messages that they are sending. There's nothing more heartbreaking to me when I hear about a teen suicide or a teen in crisis where all their peers knew, but the people who didn't know were the adults in their lives because they're not on social media to see what their peers had seen. So this is, again, why you want to require passwords. One tip I also share is I really like the idea of having one place every night, like say the kitchen, where everybody's device is plugged in, including mine. So we all plug our devices in at night and you leave them in the kitchen. And then that is your opportunity to look at that device without having to be confrontational, without saying, give me your phone, I need to check it. Your child's asleep, they're in their bedroom, and this is your chance to look at their device and go into their platforms and take a peek. I want to share this brief video. One app of concern is TikTok. Because of the extremely powerful algorithm which runs TikTok and decides user interests. So let's watch this brief video and then we'll talk about it.
TikTok knows everything about us.
Hold up, don't scroll, let me ask you something first. Can someone please explain how this algorithm works?
TikTok users often wonder how the world's fastest growing social network seems to know them so well.
TikTok's secretly listening to us while we're watching videos? I don't know.
The answer to how this app gets to know you so intimately is a highly secretive algorithm, long guarded by TikTok's China-based parent company, ByteDance.
TikTok has been so successful in terms of implementing their algorithms.
TikTok's algorithm can influence the thinking of U.S. youth.
To understand how it knows users so well, the Wall Street Journal created over 100 automated TikTok accounts, or bots, that watched hundreds of thousands of videos on the app. We also spoke to current and former executives at the company. Officially, the company says that shares, likes, follows, and what you watch all play a role in what TikTok shows you. We found that TikTok only needs one of these to figure you out: how long you linger over a piece of content.
My happy guy. Oh, just a happy.
The TikTok experience starts the same way for everyone. Open the app and you'll immediately see an endless string of videos in your For You feed. Take this new user, a 24-year-old from Henry County, Kentucky. TikTok starts by serving the account a selection of very popular videos vetted by app moderator. We gave each bot or user interests, but those interests were never entered into the app. The only way our users expressed their interests was by rewatching or pausing on videos with related hashtags or images. For all our accounts, we found that TikTok draws users in at first by serving a wide variety of videos, many with millions of views. Then, as the algorithm sees what you respond to, the selection of videos and the view counts can get lower and lower, with fewer of them vetted by moderators to see if they violate TikTok's terms of service. We reviewed our experiment and its results with a data scientist, an algorithm expert, and Guillaume Chasleau, a former Google engineer who worked on YouTube's algorithm. He's now an advocate for algorithm transparency. He says TikTok is different from other social media platforms.
The algorithm on TikTok can get much more powerful, and it can be able to learn your vulnerabilities much faster.
In fact, TikTok fully learned many of our accounts' interests in less than 2 hours. Some it figured out in less than 40 minutes. We programmed Kentucky 96 to be interested in sadness and depression. Let's see how long it takes TikTok to figure that out.
Life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you. So if life is taking people away from your life and putting new ones in.
Less than 3 minutes into using TikTok, at its 15th video, Kentucky 96 pauses on this.
And that love goes for a friend, family, or any relationship.
Kentucky 96 watches the 35-second video twice. Here, TikTok gets its first inkling that perhaps the new user is feeling down lately. At video 57, Kentucky 96 keeps watching a video about heartbreak and hurt feelings. And then, at video 60, watches one about emotional pain. Kentucky 96 lingers over this video containing the hashtag depression.
Something's wrong with me.
And these videos about suffering from anxiety.
It's like a reward.
After 224 videos into the bot's overall journey, or about 36 minutes of total watch time, TikTok's understanding of Kentucky 96 takes shape. Videos about depression and mental health struggles outnumber those about relationships and breakups. From here on, Kentucky 96's feed is a deluge of depressive content. 93% of videos shown to the account are about sadness or depression.
People been looking at me. I'm just like, what you looking at?
A TikTok spokeswoman said that some of the remaining 7% of videos are to help the user discover different content. But for Kentucky 96, such videos were few and far between. The majority of videos it was shown outside of its depressive rabbit hole were ads. Deep in the niche worlds of TikTok, users are more likely to encounter potentially harmful content that is less vetted by moderators and violates the app's terms of service.
Make them angry and sad. They would be so much happier without you.
A TikTok spokeswoman said that the company catches a lot of banned content, which passes through both computer analysis and human moderators. It also reviews videos reported by users.
Don't tell them goodbye, just go.
It's night-night time.
There's a lot of fun, silly, and life-affirming content on TikTok. But while TikTok can draw out what makes you laugh, it can also make you wallow in your darkest thoughts.
Turning the pain from mental to physical work.
Without ever needing to eavesdrop on you or collect any personal information about you.
I've never attempted suicide or anything. I've never let it get that far.
So that's about 6 minutes that I carved out from what is about a 20-minute video. This is the video I mentioned would be great to watch with your student. If you go on the Wall Street Journal webpage, you will find the entire video. It's not behind a paywall. This would be really great to sit down and watch with your teens, and then to have some of those discussions about, hey, do you think social media impacts your mental health? Or do you have any friends that you think maybe social media or their use on social media is negatively impacting them? And what would you do about that? We want to encourage them as they mature and grow to take ownership of their own wellness. And to recognize when, this platform is making me miserable. I don't want to see how on SnapMap how everyone's hanging out at a party and I wasn't invited because I didn't know about it. So that's something we have to encourage them to do as they grow and mature. There's no question that Instagram has a large amount of damaging content. The gig is up on that now that the Facebook whistleblower has come forward and has in documents, Facebook admitted that they knew that there was a large amount of content on Instagram that was damaging, in particular to adolescent girls. Now, the only good thing that's come out of this is Instagram has taken some steps, many changes, to give you more power over your Instagram. You can turn off comments. You can ban certain words from posting in comments. You can look at your usage statistics. You can actually go in and, very much like the TikTok algorithm, you can look at what Instagram thinks you're interested in and what its algorithm is pushing to you. So there's a lot of power now built into Instagram. But if a student is in crisis, they are having thoughts of suicidal ideations or thoughts of self-harm, there is a large amount of content that they can access on Instagram that could be very damaging to them personally. If you would like to consider monitoring, maybe in that critical age period between, say, 13 and 15, which I think is probably when a lot of the social media mistakes are made. I have heard great things about Bark. I have not used it personally, so I'm always careful about endorsing something that I haven't used personally, but I do have a few friends who've used it. They have reported that it's a little bit more limited if you use Apple products, and it does not monitor Snapchat. I see all the time, I'll see Bark ads that say, do you know what your child's doing on Snapchat? And there's some very scary graphic on there. That's clickbait. No monitoring program can monitor Snapchat because Snapchat does not save anything, even on the Snapchat servers. So it is really difficult to monitor. Parents always ask me, then, what do you suggest? How do we monitor Snapchat? And my response is, you can't. So don't allow your child to have Snapchat until you've done some education. They're old enough to, know the dangers and that you trust them enough. They've built up a level of trust with you where you trust that they're not going to make a very serious mistake on Snapchat. It is very easy to monitor text messages if you have Apple devices through two methods. You can monitor it using iCloud, Or you can also set up the devices where every text message that's received on your child's phone will copy either to your phone or to your laptop, to say your MacBook. It is not hard to do. You do have to have both devices, and you will have to have your child's Apple ID and password. So that's what you will need. And you'll need to have both devices together because it will send a notification to your child's phone to approve that the text messages can now be received on a second device. So you want to have that in front of you to set that up. Also, tip from personal experience, make sure you turn off notifications on, say, your MacBook, so that every time your child's phone goes off and receives a tone that they received a text message, your laptop doesn't go off at the same time. If you want to do it using iCloud, then you just need to, again, on your child's device, make sure that you have the messages backing up to iCloud, and you do that within your settings. You can see that screenshot there, so that it's backing up not just photos and contacts but also messages, and then you can log into iCloud using, again, your child's Apple ID and password to view those messages on iCloud. My last piece of advice is just to be the parent. Just like you would be the parent with your 12 or 13-year-old who wants to go to the mall, don't be afraid to get in there and be the parent and set rules and limits on what your child does on social media. I often get asked about, recommended ages, and I really rely on the experts for that, because although I feel like I'm an expert in how social media negatively impacts teens, both at school and legally, I don't consider myself a social media expert. But if you look at what adolescent experts, guidance counselors, pediatricians, child psychologists say, they really recommend 13 as being a minimum age for any type of social media. Snapchat, 16 is the recommended age because, again, you can't monitor it. So you need to feel like your child has reached a level of maturity where you can say, like, okay, you can have Snapchat, but if you make a mistake, it's on you. And then TikTok, probably 14 and up, because of the way that the algorithm works. And then there are a lot of predators on TikTok because they know that this is where that youth community is, those young people, those 13 to 17-year-olds, that's where they are, they're on TikTok. So don't be afraid to get in there and be the parent, just like you are in every other aspect of your teen's life. Thank you so much for having me. Hope your students have a great school year, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you to all the parent and student volunteers that came out to support your club booth at this year's Closet Clutter. Some upcoming events: the Buffalo Basket Auction being held on November 13th at the Sharon. Volunteer opportunities for this event will be emailed out in the next week or two, so be on the lookout if you're interested in coming out to help. A huge thank you to all the donations and beautiful baskets received so far. We would love to have more baskets and have room for about 10 more between $10 and $100. If you're interested, please email Diane Denicola. The Winter Uniform Swap will be held January 8th. Bring your gently used, outgrown items and swap for uniform pieces you need. More information coming soon. Want to support Buffalo Scholarship Foundation but don't know how? There is an easy way to start by shopping on Amazon Smile. The Amazon Smile Foundation will donate 0.5% of your eligible Amazon purchase to the Buffalo Scholarship Foundation. Want to learn more? Check out the Buffalo Scholarship Foundation donate page from the school website.
Good evening, everyone. And at the elementary school for the month of November, first off, the boys and girls enjoyed Book Character Day. We had that at the end of October, and a lot of fun was had. We did have the parade, so I hope you have a chance to watch those posted on our website. And I wanted to announce our reading goals for every building. We divide them up by building. So for our Accelerated Reader program, and those of you new to the school, like kindergarten parents, at the kindergarten level, most of the books you've probably already seen are like half a point each. Then in first grade, they might get into some chapter books that are worth more points. But anyway, we are hoping and challenging our kindergarten and first graders to collectively get 9,000 points this school year together. Of course, every boy and girl has their own individual goal as well, K to 5. At the Intermediate Center, that's our second and third graders. We're challenging them to all together work as a team and earn 22,500 points. It's a lot of reading. And our fourth and fifth graders have been challenged to read books and collectively earn 30,000 points. So some of their books are anywhere from 1 point to many more points, like our Harry Potter books are 20-something points. So we know they can do it. Again, the main goal is to be reading and enjoying good children's literature. So collectively, we are hoping our kindergarten through fifth graders earn 61,500 points this year. We know they can do it. And when they do it, we'll have a celebration towards the end of the school year. Well, also for Veterans Day coming up on November the 11th, our teachers and students are working on special projects to honor our veterans. And those of you watching that are a veteran, thank you very much for your service. And another thank you to all our parents who donated items for the upcoming basket auction, and to those parents that helped put the baskets together. Wow, the baskets have been turned in at our front offices and they are looking nice. So I hope you've marked your calendar, save the date, November 13th at the Sharon. I know more information will be coming out about that, how you can get your tickets. You could do some early holiday shopping. And with that, we want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November Buffalo Pride meeting. I am Peggy Irwin, the principal at the Villages Charter Middle School, and it's a pleasure to be here this evening. We do have a few events happening this November. On November 11th, we do have our NJHS, National Junior Honor Society induction ceremony. And if your child is being inducted into the ceremony, into the NJHS, you will receive information and an invitation to the ceremony. Also, we do have girls basketball and boys tennis starting in November. Girls basketball, our first game will be on November 8th. It is a home match against Wildwood at 4 o'clock. We are always looking for volunteers for their PI time. We need concessions, we need tickets, we need the gate. So if you are interested, please contact the middle school front office to give your information. Also, we do have science fair happening. And for those of you who have students participating in the science fair and preparing projects, you know how exhausting it can be. But the science fair will occur the Wednesday and Thursday before Thanksgiving break. So then you can relax and enjoy all the turkey that you want. Just a reminder too, we're moving and grooving through the first semester, so please make sure that your children are getting all their assignments in, that you're checking Skyward Gradebook, you're looking at the Google Calendar, Teacher Connection pages, that you're taking advantage of all the resources that we have for your kids, for your children. And also, we do have homework labs. We have a homework lab going on every morning from 7:20 to 7:50 for those students that need that last minute, oh my gosh, I forgot to do my math homework. And then we also have a homework/computer lab every afternoon from 3:30 to 5:15 so that the students can go in, they can do ALEKS, they can do their homework, so that when your children are being picked up from aftercare, they really should be free of all of those responsibilities. So please encourage your children to take advantage of everything that we offer at the middle school. Okay, those are all the announcements and topics I want to talk about this evening. So have a wonderful evening and happy November.
Good evening. The first 9 weeks have come and gone, and it will be Thanksgiving break before you know it, and we are continuing to have an excellent year at VHS. I just want to thank the VHS faculty, staff, students, and parents for all their hard work and dedication, determination in making this happen. We are all currently working harder than ever to make sure that our students continue to learn and grow and are filling learning gaps that have been created over the last couple of years. We always want to provide our students with a world-class educational experience. I would just like to take this time to remind everyone that VHS is offering tutoring in the mornings, afternoon, and on Saturday Academic A Day to make sure that we are filling those learning gaps and providing necessary instruction. Our goal is to increase learning gains in all areas, especially in core classes. So if your student needs some extra help, please contact their teacher, guidance counselor, or administrator. The VHS Theater Group hosted a successful event titled The Poe House, which was an intimate theatrical and choral presentation based on Edgar Allan Poe's stories and fused with Halloween music. What a great job by these young performers. A special thanks to the First Baptist Church of Wildwood for allowing us to use their facilities. They will also have another performance, the Choral Gala, which will be taking place in December at New Covenant Methodist Church. So stay tuned for more specific details on that. Our culinary arts class has been very busy this year with a new food truck, and it's been featured at several events. Once again, they are hosting the Thursday lunch for different clubs and organizations throughout the villages. This provides a great experience for our students. All of our fall sports teams are having successful seasons. The bowling team experienced an excellent season. The boys finished up 12-4, finishing 6th in the district. Girls 15-2, finishing 3rd in the district. And both teams are very young, so we expect great things from them in the future. Cross country, they're consistently putting runners from both the girls and boys in the top 10 and have done well in all 4 meets, taking first place in the Trinity Catholic meet. Boys golf finished the year with a 19-9-1 record, finished 2nd in the district. Girls golf finished the year with a 16-2 record and are district champions. So participants on both boys and girls are headed to regionals. Swim team, the boys finished 3-4 and finished 3rd in the district, and the girls finished the season undefeated at 7-0 and are district champs, and they are headed to regionals. Volleyball girls, varsity, they made history this year, the best season ever at VHS. They finished the season 18-4, winning the district title and advancing to regionals, where they were defeated in a valiant effort against the powerhouse Lake Highland Prep. Football team is 9-0, ranked 7th in 4A with 1 game left in the regular season before playoffs begin. What a great job so far by our student athletes. They're working hard in the classroom and on the field. Parents, please continue to look for upcoming events on the VHS website, Skyward, and Hot Topics so that you and your children can stay up to date on all the happenings and events at VHS. Have a great evening and go Buffalo!